Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. MC-Mura here, and in today's video I wanted to talk about Ed and how you can fight against him. Ed is a character that many people consider not that strong. I actually think he's pretty good, but you know, it is opinion, of course, it's all subjective. But anyways, Ed is a character that I do think is really popular, especially on the lower levels of play, and he's very easy to use and very beginner friendly, so you'll see a lot of Ed, especially on the lower ranks. So it is important to know how you can fight against him, because he can be a really annoying pain in the ass character to deal with, right? We all know like the Psycho Upper is the most annoying move in the history of anything. So let's check out Ed and check out some of his neutral tools and how we can fight against them. One of the main tools that Ed players like to use is of course his V skill, and when they charge it, Ed is gonna be plus on block. Fully charged it is plus 3, as you can see, and at plus 3 you can't really V reversal this. If you try to V reversal it, he can block it on time, no issues, and even if I try to mash or something, like say I blocked it, try to mash on wake up or something, after blocking it, he will be able to throw me. Plus 3, he is at way too much frame advantage. He does get a legit throw mix up here. So how can we deal with this attack? Well, there are a couple of things that you can do. First of all, this attack I do think is punishable by jump on reaction. When you see him charge it, like if you are sharp enough, you can absolutely actually get a jump in combo here. So this is one of the viable options. This would require some practice for you to get used to the animation, but you know how some people will neutral jump, make a charged drop kick on reaction? I do think you can absolutely do the same for Ed's charged V skill. This is the first thing. The second thing is anti-fireball moves will go through this attack. So for example, if I did Laura's EX command grab, you will see that I am able to go through this. Maybe it was a little bit closer so we can grab him, and you will see that we are able to grab him. Another example, you can do something like this, and as you can see we were able to dash through it. From the right distance you can absolutely get the throw here, right? So anti-fireball tools will go through it, you can jump it. One thing that you cannot do is armor though, so you have to be careful about that. Here I try to do Laura's EX elbow, but armor does not work. So you can jump this on reaction, or you can try to use anti-fireball moves, but you cannot armor through it. This is something that's very important and you have to know. The second thing that you have to consider from Ed, of course, is the regular V skill. If he just did it with no charge, I think this is also jumpable on reaction. Like if you look at his animation, I do think you can actually jump this on reaction. But otherwise, if you happen to block this, Ed is -2. He's -2 in your face, so you do get a throw mix-up on Ed, right? So if you happen to block this attack, he does get a throw mix-up. Now let's then check out the third attack he have, and that is his fireball. Ed's fireball is weird because it is a two-part fireball. He can just do the feint, but the actual fireball itself have a hilariously bad hitbox. So as you can see, I am hitting it from so far away. Like, you wouldn't expect that his hurtbox will extend that much, but it does. So this means that you can actually like sweep him. If you see him do it from like half screen, you can actually just sweep him. You see a fireball and you just sweep it. Like, look at how far I'm sweeping it from, right? So whenever you see it do the fireball, honestly you can just sweep it on reaction and you will get a knockdown on him. It is really, really bad. The other aspect, of course, is this charged heavy punch. And the charged heavy punch is pretty good because if this happens to hit, he gets a crumble state. He does get a good combo here. And if it is blocked, this is -2. So at -2, there is a little bit of a mix-up here because Ed players love to challenge here, or they might do the infamous, amazing EX Psycho Upper, of course. Like, you try to throw them and then they will do like a Psycho Upper, right? So what are our options here? Well, you can check him with lights and still be able to block the Psycho Upper and still be able to hit him out of a backdash. So let's check out the same sequence again. I'm gonna do Laura's light kick, and because I am +2, I am getting a counter hit, right? So you do get a counter hit conversion. This is the first part. This is if he tried to mash. What happens then if he does the Psycho Upper? So if we do the same thing, but Ed is doing the Psycho Upper, what's gonna happen is I will be able to do my light kick and block in time. Notice that Laura did her light kick, but still was able to block the Psycho Upper. This is because Psycho Upper is a slow reversal. You can use your light attacks and still block, so you do get a punish here also. So whenever Ed does the charged heavy punch, his charged knuckle thing, if you happen to block it, always challenge with light and hold back as you're doing the light. Let's take a final look at my inputs. I am doing the light kick and I'm holding back. Check it out again. You will see that Laura did her move, she did her light kick, but also because I am holding back, I was still able to block his Psycho Upper. My move recovered in time and I was able to block his EX Psycho Upper. Overall, Ed does have some annoying neutral options, but they all are honestly really punishable if you could react to them. So this is one of the key things that you have to do in the Ed matchup. So let us now talk a little bit about Ed's pressure game and his throw game, because I do think that Ed probably have a top tier throw game. I do think it might be as good as Seth's throw game actually, and I will get to why that is. But first let's talk about his pressure game. One of the common sequences that you will see Ed players doing is something like this: crouching light, standing medium into crouching medium punch, right? This is pretty nice because you can 3-frame here, you're gonna get counter hit combos. Of course, the crouching light punch itself is a very strong sequence, because as you can see, the crouching light punch is +3. And this being +3 is very strong, because if you happen, for example, to throw tech here, you're gonna get counter hit. He can do the crouching light punch and then throw you after. He can do a sequence like that, so you can't really walk back. So if you try to like block it and then walk back, he can check you walking back. And if you try to block, he can throw you after it. So the crouching light punch is a very strong party starter for him, because he can check you walking low with the sequence into flicker, he can frame trap into the medium, and he can throw you after it. So this is very strong. But let's say you happen to block the first 2 hits. If you happen to block these first 2 hits, what I would do here is backdash. If you happen to backdash, you should avoid the third sequence. It is pretty easy to do so. Pretty much after 2 hits, you could always backdash, right? Now let's then talk about another offensive sequence that Ed players love to do, and that is doing double standing medium punches, right? If you try to backdash here, you're gonna get air reset. If you try to do your 3-frame, you're gonna get counter hit comboed into sweep. So this is also really nice, but kind of the same rules apply. After the second one, you can just backdash. So if, regardless of what he's doing after the second hit, you can pretty much backdash at this point, right? The only really annoying sequence I will say is that one, because you can't kind of walk back. A lot of people love to walk back and block in Street Fighter 5, but this pretty much checks you. So that is pretty nice. That is really good for him. But he doesn't get that much out of that. As you can see, he did like 100 damage or so. It doesn't lead to much, and of course this combo's on hit. But again, that's like 120 damage, 130. It is not that big of a deal. So I will try to block for the first 2 hits and then backdash the third hit. Now let's talk about his throw mix-up, because there's a lot to talk here regarding Ed and his throw. Ed have a really good throw situation. So as you can see, after Ed throws you his forward throw and the dash, Ed is -1, right? And because Ed is -1, it is actually really hard, because Ed have a 16 frames dash. Ed's dash is one of the fastest dashes in the game, and it's actually very hard to react to. Some people call Ed dash a teleport. It is that good and the animation is that tricky. So his dash is actually really hard to react to. Like if you got thrown and you're trying to purely react to this, there is a very good chance that you will get hit. And the reason that makes this like even a lot worse is because if you try to react to just the forward movement, you can get crash countered by his standing heavy kick. So out of this, Ed can dash up and throw you, or he can do the standing heavy kick. And this seems really annoying, right? Because you have to react to the dash. So what can you do? Well, there is an answer here, but it carries some risk. So what you can do here is backdash on wake up, right? You can try to backdash here, and your backdash should avoid his standing heavy kick. But of course, it's gonna depend on your character. Some characters might be able to, some characters might not be able to. You're gonna have to check this for your character. And of course, if you happen to try to do the throw after it, It was the fourth one. So if he happened to do a throw after it, your backdash will escape from the throw, right? So backdashing is an option. However, backdashing also carries a big risk, because if Ed have a read on you, he can do this. He can dash up into his crouching heavy punch, and you're gonna get crush countered, and he can get a lot of damage out of this crush counter. So even backdashing here is not really a safe option per se. It is just a read. And that's why I was saying that Ed have one of the best throw mix-ups in the game. His situation after the throw is honestly fucked up if you really think about it and consider all of the options. His throw game is top tier in my opinion. So your best options here is try to react to the dash. Of course, this will leave him with another options like doing the V skill, like jumping in on you, like maybe trying to dash into EX Psycho Upper. He can do a lot, but it is important to know your options and mixing between them. Backdashing is honestly not the worst idea still, and he does have to do a read on you, because if he does the same sequence again, and I happen to do my 3 frame, I should be able to hit him on wake up. So this does carry some risk for the Ed as well. It is not like a free mix-up, right? There is a little bit of a risk reward here. Overall, his throw game is really good, but I hope that after understanding some of his options, you are now more prepared to deal with it. So now let's talk for a bit about Ed and his V-triggers, and of course I'm gonna start with V-trigger 1. V-trigger 1 for Ed is gonna be really easy to deal with or really hard to deal with depending on your character and the matchup. This V-trigger is very matchup dependent, and most of it is gonna depend on your character's ability to V-reversal it on block. So for example, for someone like Balrog here, Balrog can just V-reversal this. And because Balrog's V-reversal moves him forward, he can knock Ed down and V-reversal it and be relatively safe. But many characters will stay in place during their V-reversal, so they might V-reversal Ed successfully, but because they are staying in place, the fireball would hit them and Ed will get a follow-up. So if your character have a V-reversal that doesn't move them forward, you're gonna have some hard time dealing with this V-trigger in my opinion. It's a pretty good V-trigger. Now, let's talk for a bit now about his V-Trigger 2, because Ed's V-Trigger 2 is kinda quirky, and there is a lot that you have to know here. Ed's V-Trigger 2 gives him an improved version of his Snatcher. It's basically like a faster version of his charged V-Skill 1, right? But instead of him bullying you to him, he will, bull himself to you, and he's gonna be +3 in your face, right? So it is really good for that. However, the thing about this V-trigger is that there is a lot of gaps here that you can work with. One of the most popular sequence is doing fireballs into the Snatcher. And remember, in the start of the video, we talked about how the Snatcher is treated like a projectile, right? So someone like Balrog can actually just V-skill through this, because his V-skill goes through fireballs, he can just V-skill this. For this particular gap, you can also backdash. And if you backdash, you can get a punish here. But the backdash is kinda... he can delay the Snatcher and catch your backdash. So it is not like the be-all end-all. There is counterplay here from the Ed. But of course, a move that goes straight through fireballs, something like Balrog V-Skill 1 should absolutely shut this down, right? This is the first option. Of course, the second option is V-reversaling it. You can just V-reversal this. It is very prone to V-reversals. A V-reversal is guaranteed in this situation, there's not much he can do. So you can nullify this V-trigger entirely by V-reversaling it. And if he happened to cancel into the Snatcher from his normals, he is actually it's never going to be a true block string. There's always going to be gaps. So if you try to do something like this, crouching heavy into the Snatcher, you can actually try to challenge here with your 3 frame and you should be able to interrupt him, right? If you try to do it with like other normal, like his standing heavy kick for example, let's check this out, he's gonna try to do heavy kick now. You can also do your 3 frame or 4 frame and you should be. This is at least a 4 frame gap, so 3 frame or 4 frame should be able to deal with it. Now, the only true block string here he have for the Snatcher is the charged Knuckle. Like this is the one where you can backdash, you can do your V-skill, you can do anything. This is a true block string. Even if I try to mash, no matter how much I'm mashing, nothing is coming out. But of course you can bait this attack. So you can do something like this, jump back and get a full combo punish on him, right? The enhanced snatcher is really good for pressure, but as you saw, there's a lot of gaps here. It's all about knowing the gaps. If he does any normal, there is always at least 4-frame gap. If he does it out of the fireball, you can bad dash or use fireball invincible attack. And if he uses it from the Psycho Knuckle, you can always just jump back and punish this attack. One other very important thing you have to know about this V-trigger is that he can cancel into it from blocked moves as well. So he can do something like EX Psycho Upper, and normally you get a crush counter punish for this, right? But notice that my standing heavy kick here will not crush counter it. When he cancels into the upward snatcher, he's kinda cancelling the recoveries, the counter hit recovery frames, so you don't get a crush counter punish here on it. You're gonna have to do something faster, so maybe doing something like this is the better option. Overall, it's a pretty good V-trigger. I don't think it's that amazing because there's a lot of counterplay to it if you're aware, but still it's a pretty decent V-trigger. At least he forces you to burn your V-bar on V-reversals. So now I wanted to briefly talk about Ed's V-Skill 2. Ed's V-Skill 2 is primarily gonna be used versus Fireball characters or to set up the -2 gimmicks, right? So for example, when Ed uses his V-Skill 2, this goes straight through Fireballs, so it does have some uses versus Fireball characters as you can see, but there are two versions of this. This is the uncharged version, and this is -6 on block. First of all, the range isn't actually that great on the uncharged version. So you can absolutely whiff punish him here, right? This is the uncharged one. If you happen to block it, again it's -6, so you do get a punish. So for the uncharged version, you can whiff punish it, or if it happened to get blocked, you can absolutely just block and punish him for it. The second version is the charged version, and the charged version is really invincible against fireballs. There's a ton of invincibility here, and if it happened to get blocked, it is -2. Because it is -2, of course, you know what it is, right? But the same rule still applies. Just like in Psycho Knuckle, you can do your lights and hold back, and you should be able to block this in time and get a punish on Ed, right? So his V-Skill 2 is pretty nice. It is kinda matchup specific. I don't see many Ed players using it, to be honest, but it is important to know what it is and how you should be able to deal with it. Now let's talk for a bit about Ed's own defensive options, because Ed does have a fair amount of decent defensive options, I will say. He does have a 3-frame, so when you knock Ed down on the ground, you will notice that his standing light kick is his 3-frame attack. So for example, with a knockdown like that with Gil, I'm gonna be +2 after a dash. Because he has a 3-frame, you can kinda meaty him and get a counter hit, right? At a +2 knockdown. Let's just not fuck this up. And you will get a meaty, right? But of course, you can also throw him here. So you do get it is throwable. It is a +2 being able to throw the normal and wake up kind of thing. So it is good that he have a 3-frame, right? He also, of course, have the Psycho Upper, and the Psycho Upper on wake up is the same way. Like against the Psycho Upper, this is kind of honestly halfway. Like this is the key information to dealing with Ed. You wanna do your meaty and while holding back, and you will be able to meaty him. And you will be able to also block the Psycho Upper in time. So if we turn on both options, for example, as you can see, I am able to meaty him while also being able to avoid the Psycho Upper. This is the key information when fighting against Ed. You should always practice this with your character and get the hang of it, because it does make a big difference in this matchup. Of course, he can also do the same things on block. So for example, when Ed is blocking, he does actually have a really good backdash. So versus the Psycho Upper, it is the same deal. You want to do lights, and while you're doing the lights, you want to be holding back, and then you are gonna get punishes on him. So that is the first option. The second option, like I said, is the backdash, and Ed have a really good backdash actually. So for example, if I try to do a sequence like that one, you will notice that his hitbox kind of shifts backward really quickly. So if you're not very close, he might be able to backdash. Of course, this is a very character specific thing, but Ed can backdash out of many block strings that most characters can't. So he does actually have a really above average backdash. So as you can see, if you point blank, he can absolutely backdash out of it without getting hit. His hurt box shifts backwards really quickly. Finally, I wanted to talk about, of course, his final option, and that is his V reversal. It have an unconventional V reversal because he kind of moves to the other side. This is alright, but it has some recovery. So for example, if I'm trying to do a sequence, one of the sequences that will beat all of his options, for example, is me trying to do a standing light kick into standing light kick. Right? If he happen to do the psycho upper, I get to block. If he happen to try to backdash, I get the hit here, as you can see. So for example, you can get this, and if he happen to V reversal, this is also punishable. So for example, if I'm here, you still get a punish on end. So his V reversal does have recovery. You can absolutely punish it on recovery and get decent punishes actually on him, and he's also throwable, I believe, out of this as well. So he's throwable and he have recovery after the animation is done. And that is pretty much it on Ed and how you can deal with him. He is a quite annoying character, to be honest. I think the issue with Ed, what gives people a lot of trouble, is that his EX Psycho Upper is a move that you always have to worry about. You kinda have to restructure your offense just to fight against Ed, and he is a really fast character, especially online. If the connection isn't perfect, it can be really hard to deal with his gimmicks. But anyway, that's it for today's video. If you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a comment. It helps the channel so much. Thank you very much for watching and stay safe.